Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie and it's time for a book tag. I'm going to do the book addiction tag. And as always, I will post the link to whoever created the original video. So here we go. Okay, question number 1. What is the longest amount of time you can go comfortably without picking up a book? And I think probably a day, because I've had, I have stopped reading a book after I finished a book. If I was really into it, then yeah, I might have a period where that day I want to just, watch a movie or something instead of jumping back into the other book. But I usually will jump into and either continue the other book I was reading or jump into a new book if I haven't started a new book right away. So, like I said, probably a day. Okay, so in question number 2, how many books do you carry on your person, physical or device, at any one time? I actually have a Nook. My mom got it for me for Christmas. It's the Barnes & Noble version of an e-reader, but I have not used it in years. I used it for a little while because, my mom got it for me anyway in case I would like to try it, and I have not opened it yet. I don't even remember how to get into it, so, and I also don't have Barnes & Noble card because, Barnes & Noble no longer exists anymore. I mean, I think there's some places that still have Barnes & Noble, but most of them have, essentially shut down. So I don't have any devices, although, actually, I now have I have the Libby app on my phone. I had to actually download it recently because something happened with my phone and I had to get a new one. So I might have an audiobook. But usually I have physical books, and most of the time I have 2. Sometimes, depending on the size of the book, I might even have 3 in my purse. But that's why I always have a big purse. I love big purses because I can always carry a book and a notebook in there, a small notebook. So usually 2 physical books. Even if I only read one of them. Question number 3. Do you keep every book you buy/receive, or are you happy to pass them to make space for more? So I will go through a period where I can't find any books that I want to pass on and donate. So I really struggle. I have to pick and choose, and I might have to pick and choose, go on Goodreads and read descriptions of books and see, okay, is this book worth if I'm gonna do I still want to read it? Or even though I enjoyed this book, am I going to read it again? I have to really think about that. And I haven't in fact, today there are 2 books from a series, and I'm thinking about doing that right now, that I might take them off the shelf and donate them. And I never even opened them. I mean, I did, I read a few pages, maybe 10, 18 pages. But so when I am able to finally pick books to get rid of, I end up donating them to the Roast Office Bookshop. And now there's another used bookstore, which I hope is still doing well, because with this whole pandemic and everything, it was a small bookshop, and it just started in 2018 or 19. In December of one of those years, it had just started. So I hope they're doing okay. I've been meaning to look it up, but I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, if I push myself enough or am pushed enough, then yeah, I can, but it's very difficult to be able to donate books. But yeah, I've been donating a lot more, and then I've given books to at least one of my friends. And then the other one, I can donate books, but it gets kind of hard at some point because, especially if I haven't read a lot of books on my shelf, and I have gotten to that point before because I buy more books than I read my books. and which I hope I'm not the only one who does that. Okay, so question number 4 is, how long would you spend in a bookshop on a standard visit? Okay, so when before we moved here, we had a bookstore that we had a large Books-A-Million, and there was a cafe and everything, and so I would sit there for a good while, but unfortunately I had to also, it was in driving distance and I can't drive. My disability prevents me from being able to. But now living here, most of the bookshops that are near me do not have a cafe, but the roast office does. My only issue with the roast office bookstore is that it takes donated books. It takes used books. So it only has as many books it only has the books that the people in this community would read. So it's like, so it's like if I go to the roast office, which unfortunately we can't right now because with this whole thing going on, you can't really go to the store and linger too long. But I would go there and hang out for an hour, but I would spend more time browsing. And all the other bookstores in the area they might have a seating area somewhere you can sit, but there's not much of a seating place where you can sit. So I've gotten into the habit of just browsing mostly, and lately I've been relying on my parents bringing me there. So I will, it depends on how, so when they take me, they will usually have errands to run, and however long it takes them to run their errands is how long I have in there. So I've gotten to the habit of not being as, I don't linger as long. So, I wrote down on my document notes that 30 minutes to an hour. And I always I joke around and tell people that, I shop like a guy and I just go in and go out. The whole stereotype of guys, and I hope I'm not offending any guys that watch my channel. It's just I feel like that a lot of times guys, when they go shopping, they don't linger like women do. They just know what they want, and yeah, they might linger to make sure it's the right thing that they want. But mostly, basically my thing, I know what I want, so I look for it, and then I want to go ahead and pay for it, because there's because there's nowhere really to sit and hang out in most of the bookstores I like. And even though the roast office has places to hang out, it has a cafe. It's like now I have this desire to just, pay for my book and then go home. And just walk back home. But once everything opens up again, I want to get back to that. I want to start getting more into that, of buying coffee there and just lingering for a little while longer. And also there's the thing about how we live across from the elementary school, so in the afternoon, around 2, 3, there's always a lot of there's a lot of traffic, so I have to leave, I'm going to have to leave really later in the evening, around 4, or leave really early when I go on those school days. So that's kind of a bit annoying, having to wait for the cars to come in and out. So really, it's like I no longer really stay as long as I used to when I was a kid, when I would go to Books-A-Million bookstore. Oh, well, actually, when I was a kid, it was Borders. You guys remember Borders bookstore? But my only evidence that Borders exist, I don't have it at the moment. It's in a book somewhere, but the only evidence I have that Borders exists was I have one of those red paper bookmarks that they used to have. But yeah, I don't linger as much, so I really don't. I just, browse a little bit and then that's it. Okay, so next question is number 5. How much time per day do you actually spend reading? It varies. It will depend on because I'm not someone who could sit for like long hours. Like for some reason, like as much as I love reading, I'm not one of those readers who can just sit and only read all day. Like I thought about doing 24-hour readathons, but then I realized I probably can't do that because I would get distracted. I'd be tempted to go on the internet or watch TV, or like the way I communicate with my friends is online. That's my only communication with them, so it's not like, and I'm sure if I told any of them that I would like to do that I'd just completely zone out from them and just read, then maybe. But at the same time, this weird thing about not wanting, when I want to do something like that, I don't want to have to explain myself to people. I don't want to have to like justify and be like, okay, I need to have my space now. I want to have my reading. I want to do nothing but reading. But it's not just, it's also, like I said, the internet and the TV. So I couldn't do, like I said, I just don't think I can do a 24-hour reading all day. So with that being said, like I said, it varies. Like I read a good while earlier, just now, right before I came up here. Because I want to finish the 5th season in the next 2 weeks. So I read like up to chapter 17. Well, I read a little bit into chapter 17, and then I found a break I found like a break in between. And actually, I probably could have kept going, but I also wanted to make film this tag before my mom was like ready to start dinner. So I wanted to get that done. So that's why I decided to stop and take a break. And then after dinner, I'll probably read a little bit more. Maybe finish chapter 17. Maybe read up to chapter 20. And then maybe I can finish it by tomorrow. But anyway. So it's more along, I don't keep track of how long I'm reading, I keep track of how much I've read, like how many pages, how many chapters I've read. That's what I focus on. Like I try to read, with a lot of YA books, I try to read up to 4 chapters. With adult books, it's a little bit hard because sometimes the adult books from, adult books, the chapters, or like classics, for instance, older books, then the chapters can be a little bit longer. But I try to read a lot. I try to read quite a few chapters. So that's what I usually go by, how many chapters. So I don't ever keep track of how long I'm reading. I just keep track of how much. Okay, so question number 6. Where does the task picking up a book appear on your daily to-do list? I first want to, get ready for the day and eat breakfast and stuff, but it's right away, it's right at the top for a to-do list, but yeah, it's usually number 1, not counting the whole getting ready for the day and eating breakfast and stuff, because if I decide to, although when I'm eating breakfast, I will watch TV, but if I decide to do that first, or like get on the internet first and watch BookTube or something, then I might never get around to reading. So I always try to make sure I read first. Which, like, I was just watching Daniel Green's video on how to read more, and he was talking about how, maybe, like, he suggested in his opinion that doing some physical activity first before you read is a good idea in his opinion, because then you have released all that energy, and then by the time you release all the energy, you're kind of tired and you're ready to relax. But for me, I have to read a little bit first. I can't do that. But like I was just thinking about that I was just thinking about that today. And how that really doesn't work for me because I feel more like I need to get reading done first, because I might not get around to it later, especially if it involves like going on the internet or watching TV. Although I can watch TV downstairs when I'm eating breakfast. It's if I turn the TV on up here, in my room, in my own space, and I might not. I might be distracted and would rather watch that. But if I turn it on downstairs, since it's not my space, it's the main area, I can escape into my room to avoid being distracted by the TV. Unless I turn it on up here. One of the things I really like about the summer is that I can also sit outside and read. So if I want to get out of my room and not be distracted by all the things in my room, like my computer and my phone and stuff, then I can go outside and focus on my book. Although sometimes if I sit in the backyard on our back porch, then our neighbors might distract me a little bit with the kids and stuff. They have little ones, and all the adults, all of our neighbors talking, like talking with their parents or with each other and their kids and stuff, and that can be a bit distracting. Or the dogs, of course. At least one of our neighbors also has a dog. So yeah, it's usually one of the things I want to do first thing. Okay, so next question number. I'm getting closer to the screen because I need to see the document. Question number 8. Approximately how often do you bring up books in a conversation? And my answer is kind of like, I wish I could remember. I should have looked up her channel and so I could mention her. But the person whose video I was watching that just did this tag, I wish I could remember her name, or her channel name. But whose tag I watched, my answer is the same as hers. That surprisingly not that often. I mean, like, I try, if like they bring up or I know that they're a reader themselves, then maybe. But I'm always surrounded by non-readers anyway, and sometimes people will talk to me when I'm reading and want to bring up the book I'm reading then. And I'm like, no, I'm reading that book right now. I'm actually reading at the moment, so no, I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want you to. Like the other day at work, someone had asked me, saw that I was reading David Copperfield, and of course he assumed that I meant the magician David Copperfield, and I was very polite and nice, but like, oh no, this is different, but inside I was like, no, that's not the same. He's not the same person. This comes from, but yeah, I don't really, and it's easier actually for me to talk about TV shows and movies than books, surprisingly. Actually, no, that's not really a surprise. But, compared, as much as I love reading, I find I'm better at talking about books and I'm better at talking about TV shows and movies. But that is changing a little bit. I am getting better, especially because I'm reading a lot of classics and stuff. And also, I get really frustrated because no one around me reads as much as I do. So I have no one to talk to, and bond over. Although now Larissa, my friend Larissa, is I've given her books before, and now she's reading those books. So we're talking about books and stuff too, which makes me very happy. But it's just funny. By the time people get into some of the stories that I like, it's after I moved on a little bit. Like my parents are now, got into the show version of Outlander. My aunt likes Outlander, then my cousin got into it. It's like, why weren't you into it before? Why are you into it now? And it's not even the book, it's the show. Which is different. Because I moved on from it. And the same with Song of Ice and Fire. My parents love Game of Thrones. But it's like, and that one I haven't given up. I'm going to read the books again. Because I still, I'm going to get back into the books at some point. But, so it's like, why did you get into it now? Why now? Why didn't you get into it before? But yeah, I'm not surrounded by a lot of readers. So I don't get to talk about books or specific books that I like as much as I would like to. So I don't talk about books that often. But I do get very giddy and excited when I find, another coworker likes Stephen King, although she doesn't like the same kind of Stephen King books that I like necessarily. But I was very happy that she liked She said that she likes Stephen King, but of course we were at work and we weren't on our break, so we couldn't talk that much. But yeah, I surprisingly do not talk about books that much. I mean, I would like to, but I haven't found anyone. And now maybe people like my dad would say, "Oh, you should join a book club," but the problem is that they're not necessarily talking about the books I'm talking about. They're, Okay, so next. Oh, wait, I skipped number 7. Okay, I skipped question number 7. That was question in number 8. Question number 7, how many books do you reckon you own in total, including ebooks? I don't really have, I guess if I counted ebooks, I couldn't tell you, because I don't remember what my yearbook, and I couldn't really get into so we're going to pretend that doesn't exist, because I couldn't get access to it anyway. But as far as the books here and here, and I guess if you count the Barnes, I guess I should count the Barnes Noble, those Barnes Noble leather-bound ones too. But I think a bit over 100 books. Like I said, I'm going to be getting rid of 2 soon, but it would still be over 100, I think. But yeah, at least I'm not going to count the ebook. I guess even if I count the ebooks, and didn't pretend they didn't exist, it would still be over 100. Okay, so that was going back to number 7. So I already did number 8. So number 9, question number 9 is, what is the biggest book page count you have finished reading? And I'm gonna say a little over 600. I think I might have finished a 700 book, 700, 800. It's hard to tell because it takes me a long time before I finish. Well, actually, I could say I've read over 1,000-page book because I've read both It by Stephen King and Gone with the Wind, and those are over 1,000 pages. And I finished those. It just took me a long time to finish them because when it comes to big books, my commitment is very wobbly because I want to get into them. I believe they have so much story I'm missing out on, but they're so long. It's such a big commitment. It's like. And I keep thinking about all my other books that I haven't read, and the ones that won't take me as long. And for the longest time, I've always been a young adult reader, and young adult books, most of the time, are not that long. And the writing style is a little more fast-paced, and a little easier to read than the classic. They're not as wordy as classics. So, there are some books that will take me a long time. And then some of the bigger books that I've gotten into, like Stephen King, sometimes I have to be, as much as I love Stephen King and I've become, a fan of his work, sometimes I have to be in a certain kind of mood for Stephen King's works. Because a lot of times they're very crass, very gruesome, they're horror, they're scary stuff, and sometimes they're just about life and, the horrors of life. So I have to be kind of in the right mood. Lately I have not read any Stephen King for the Stephen King Project. So I have technically read a couple books that are over 1,000 pages. But I said in my notes a little over 600. A bit over 600, but which is probably more accurate because yes, I've read It and Gone with the Wind, but like I said, that took me a long time to read, and I haven't read anything that long since. And I restarted both of them. And I'm a little farther along in It, but I'm barely into Gone with the Wind. Okay, so, question number 10. Is there a book you had to get your hands on against all odds? Searched, bookstores, online digging, stocks, etc. Not really. There were books that I really wanted to get that, especially recently, the second book in the Seven Waters trilogy, I really was desperate to get, and it was saying, oh, something like these will soon run out or something, or I was really in the mood to get our mutual friend because it was Katie from Books and Things' favorite Dickens. I wanted to get it so I could read it at some point, So there have been books that I'm really like at that moment, at the time, I'm desperate to buy those books. But I don't know if I would, like beat someone with a shovel just to get a book. Like I would not be like those crazy parents that are like so desperate to get a specific toy for their child that they will fight each other to get to the store around Christmas time. Another one that I was thinking of that I wanted to. What's the last one? Oh, the last book I like was kind of really wanted to get like right now that I couldn't wait for it was I couldn't wait a home is a Shakespeare omnibus, a Shakespeare collection of 4 of his tragedies. Although when I got it, I was kind of a little bit disappointed by the edition that I got. I didn't expect it to be that kind of edition, but then I didn't think about what a library binding meant. So that I was like, oh, I better get this because it was like down to 5 left. So like, oh, I gotta get this. And my mom was like, okay, well, if there's not much left, go ahead and buy it. But yeah, that's the closest I'll get to being like desperate to get a book. Because if it's if at the time I'm just really excited and I keep thinking about that book and I keep wanting it, then yeah, that's the closest I'll get. Okay, so that was number 10. Okay, question number 11. Is there a book you struggled to finish because you refused to DNF? I don't know if in the past if I've ever had that problem, but I know I've definitely DNF'd a lot more. So there's really been no books that I think I finished this book called The Olivet. That was kind of weird. I think it had an incestuous relationship that I ended up finishing that I didn't really like. I was not comfortable with that. I really can't think. No, I don't know if there's been any books that I've DNF'd that there's books that I've felt. There have been books though that I've gotten from the library that I felt guilty about not wanting to finish them and it gave me kind of anxiety. And my dad finally, after I talked to my dad, he was like, if you want to return the book and don't want to read, then don't read it. But actually I was just thinking about I guess the book that came close to this is the 7th book in the Keeper of the Lost City series. I ended up DNFing. I got to the final stretch, the final mile or whatever, and I did end up DNFing it. But I was determined to finish it out. And then I was like, you know what? I've DNF'd books before. Who cares? I'm done. I'm done with the series because there were aspects of the series that were irritating me. Maybe the House of Night series. I probably felt that way about the House of Night series at one time. And also Under Western Eyes. But I DNF'd all those books. So eventually. So I guess, yeah, there have been some that but I ended up DNFing them because I was just not feeling them. Okay, so then question number 12, I was a little uncertain about. My first response to question number 12 was to name some books for the answer, but then I was just thinking, could they also mean actual, not necessarily specific books, but just ideas? Like, the question is, what are 3, parentheses, some of your main book goals for 2019 or 2020 if you started planning? So this must have been before 2020 when this tag was created. But, so it's not that old. It's only a couple years old, I think, this tag. So hopefully that person still is on BookTube and I can give you the original tag. But, like, my first response was I named some books, which are A Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, Bleak House by Charles Dickens, and Needful Things. Just throw a more modern book in there, which is by Stephen King. and then, like I said, I was just thinking, well, what about, like, are they asking for specific books, or maybe just goals in general? Because, like I said, I wanted to keep going with some Stephen King. I wanted to read a lot, continue growing my classics library and read more classics. And actually, goals starting towards the end of this year and that I want to do in 2021 is read some ancient literature and Shakespeare. Because I always thought I couldn't do it. I couldn't read that stuff, but I've read Shakespeare in school, and I've seen some Shakespeare plays and movie adaptations of Shakespeare plays. So I feel like I shouldn't, maybe I can do it. And then ancient literature, I've started reading the Odyssey, and it actually reads like a regular novel, maybe a little archaic with some of the ideas and stuff, but I'm liking it. And I liked when we read Beowulf in my British Lit class a couple years ago, and the same thing with Sir Gawain the Green Knight. I mean, they weren't my all-time favorites, but I did like them. It's just, I'm worried that I won't be able to because of the way those texts are written. But I've decided I want to give it a shot. I want to try that kind of stuff. So that's, so if we're not just talking specific books, then starting this year, I want to read, like I said, Shakespeare and some ancient literature. There's some of my goals going in from 2020 to 2021. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Okay. And question number 13 is, have you ever had the privilege of converting someone into a reader by inspiration or your incessant nagging? Okay, so I don't want to claim that I turned her into a reader, but I think I've because she was probably reading before, but my friend Larissa, before we moved here, I gave her some of my books, because, when you move, you don't want to have too many books, you don't want to have too many books to have to worry about moving back and forth between your house and, your new house and your old house. So my mom was, requesting I try to go through my books and see if there's any ones that I could get rid of, and I gave her a whole bunch of them. And I imagine she's probably didn't read as much before because she gets distracted more easily. But I like to think, maybe this is egotistical of me to be saying this, but I do like to think that I've gotten her more into reading. Because with the help of the books I gave her, like, she's read the Lunar Chronicles, she's currently reading Serafina, she's currently reading, actually no, she just finished Casual Vacancy. But she read Serafina, which I read years ago, and I've been meaning to reread, so because the second one came out a couple years later, after I read the first one, which was really annoying, because I don't, I've realized that with series, I should probably wait until, if not all the books are out yet, at least wait until more than one of the books from the series is out, because it takes authors, it probably will take them like a year or over a year to get the next book written. Depending on the author and the type of book and stuff like that. So sometimes, if it takes too long, sometimes I will move on. Was one of the few people who actually really loved King of Scars, but the second book that she's planning to write has not come out yet, and now I'm not even thinking, I think about it a little bit, because there are a lot of people that are Lee Bardugo fans on BookTube, but I haven't, it might get to the point where I'm, not as excited to read the second one, so it's I should just, and the problem is I get so excited when the first book comes out, but then it takes the author a long time before they publish the next book, which is fine. I understand that, I definitely get, as a fan myself, I get the whole frustration of the impatience, and like I said, part of what I'm talking about here is that problem I'm talking about here is that I'll end up forgetting about the series for a while, and then I'm no longer as interested. I mean, I still am, I still might be, but I'm not as excited about it. But I do get at the same time that it's not easy to write a book, especially if you want to write a really good book, a good sequel that won't please people, and if it's something like Game of Thrones, the Song of Ice and Fire series, and you want it to be good, and there's so much you gotta make sure to do right, and you want it to be perfect. Or with Patrick Rothfuss and his series, his trilogy that he's been working on for a while. So I understand. I feel bad that the authors are constantly being nagged about it, and it's I get the frustration, but at the same time, I feel like people should back off. But so I bring this up because I read the book Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, not Seraphina, that middle grade series, or Seraphina Trent or whatever, or there's actually a historical Christian series. It's a mystery series that is that's about that the main character is also named Seraphina, which I should tell Larissa about that and see if she would be interested in that series, because she is Christian, and I think. Although it gets a lot, the problem with that trilogy is that it gets a little preachy. So I don't know if everybody would be. She might not be as interested. But I'll probably tell her about it. So anyway, so it's it took me, and then it took her quite a long time before she published the second book. So by that point, I have kind of moved on. But then Larissa read the first book, and then she's saying the second one had already come out, so she could easily get to it. Long story short, so I like to think that I kind of got her more into reading by, and now she's asking me for recommendations. And I also, when I found out my sister's college roommate also was a reader, I got very excited then. It was I didn't convert her, she was already a reader, but I was very excited when I found that out. And it was also kind of weird because she's my sister's friend, so it was just kind of weird that something we kind of connected on. But no, she's not an answer to the question because she was already a reader before. In fact, my sister and her other friends and my parents can't even fathom how she has time to read, because she's a little boy. She's a little toddler. And now I think she had another kid. I think she's either pregnant again or she had another child. Or they're trying. I don't remember. But anyway, but yeah, Larissa, that's my answer. I like to think, maybe again this might be a little bit egotistical of me, but I do like to think. But I mean, then again, that was the question. So, but anyway, okay. So enough answering that one. Next. Okay, question number 14 is one that I was struggling with just now. I hadn't come up with an answer yet for this one, so I'm still struggling. I still didn't technically completely answer the question, but it's describe what books mean to you in 5 words. And I don't have 5 words, I just have 3 words. I couldn't think of a 5th one. I couldn't think of 2 more words. So far I have escapism, a way to escape into another world, to get away from, okay, so knowledge, I feel like, even if you're not reading, even if you don't read nonfiction, I feel like you get a lot of knowledge, from books, even if they're not nonfiction. I think it increases your vocabulary. That's what parents always constantly say. That's why they love them a reader, because, and it helps you to understand a lot more things and understand people, even if it's not facts. Learning about, I read, the history of Broadway and 13 Miles. Not, the actual physical Broadway theaters, but the Broadway street, the street itself. And then I also got the memoir, Julie Andrews', and last year recently a memoir I read was Lauren Graham's memoir, and then last year I read Julie Andrews' memoir, and I have her second one. I'm wondering, maybe I should bring that one. I always feel like I have to, whenever, like, we've been planning to, when everything is somewhat normal, we're planning to see visit my sister, because I want to see my new niece. And I always feel like when we try to visit her, because like we don't know yet, but when we visit her, she got me Julie Andrews, the second memoir Julie Andrews wrote, and I keep thinking I should bring that one when I go see her, because if my sister gives me something, gives me a gift like a book, then like for my birthday or Christmas, then I always feel like I have to show her that I'm reading that book. But anyway. So, let's see. So I feel like you gain a lot of knowledge from books, whether they're fiction or nonfiction. I said the word childhood because it's, I've been reading since I was a kid. My parents read to me, and then when I was old enough to read on my own, there was Harry Potter. I discovered Harry Potter as a child, so I've loved reading since I was a kid. So it's part of who I am. It's part of my DNA. It's part of my childhood. I just thought about another word, but now I can't remember what it was. Okay, so I guess fun. It's something fun to do. It's like I said, which I guess fun is kind of connected to escapism. So it's something fun when you're bored, when you're bored, or something to I'm trying not to use this because I just thought about another word. Something fun to keep you entertained. It makes you happy. Even if the book makes you angry, even if what's going on in the book makes you angry, it's still kind of happy. If it's not a super emotional book, it can mean if it's a fun book, if it's generally a fun book, not just, it can be a stress reliever. Like a lot of people say when I've read on the internet documents about relieving stress and why you should read. They've said that it relaxes you and they even say, like, instead of staring at your phone when you're going to bed, or watching TV, or being on the internet right before you go to bed, you should open a book instead. So you can be relaxed and you're not tricked by the ultraviolet lights. Because there's obviously not lights on a book unless you're reading on an e-reader. So it's also very relaxing and it's very stress relieving activity to do. So it's always calmed me down. So I came up with 5 words after all. So escapism, knowledge, childhood, fun, and stress reliever, which actually is technically 2 words with a hyphen in between them. So I don't know if that counts as 6 or not. But anyway, so that is the book addiction tag. If you want to do this tag, then consider yourself tagged and do this tag. It's an interesting one. It's a little different from the usual. Think of a character, a character that is this way, or a character that does this, or your favorite couple that represents this. Keep touching my stupid mouse keeps disconnecting, so I keep touching my mouse. The mouse that's this mouse. Not the mouse that's on the actual computer, but the mouse this one. It keeps disconnecting. I keep losing the connection, which is really annoying. But anyway, so if you like this tag, be sure to give a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you have not already. Click the bell notification below if you want to know. If you want to know when I post new videos. Keep yourself safe and healthy and happy. Do what you can for like the Black community and the other communities, the other minority communities that see and always enjoy your reading. All right, bye.